Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. First of all, thank you to everyone that messaged me or commented or whatever on the videos yesterday and said, no, we like the name, keep the name Walking Boxing. So I appreciate that. So yes, we will keep the name Walking Boxing. So the last couple of days I've pretty much focused on the Michael Zerafa versus Team Zoo situation, Canelo Alvarez with the backlash. So today with the Olympics starting, so I'm pretty sure they start today. I'll just get my dog there. He always gets off the leash. So the opening ceremony was yesterday, and so I first touch on the opening ceremony. Now I didn't actually sit there and watch it, I will say. I just saw highlights of it, and with everyone covering it on social media, I saw plenty of it. Can I just say, what the hell is this world coming to? What is sport coming to? Am I in the minority here? Does everyone actually like this sort of stuff? Now, I'm not religious at all, but from what I saw of that thing with the Last Supper, if I was a Christian, I would be totally insulted by that. That is disgraceful. And I think if they mocked other religions like that, there would be uprisings and hell to pay, riots, boycotts, whatever, you name it. So it was pretty poor, not to mention some of the acts. If that's what you want to call them, acts. Anyway, so with the Olympics starting this weekend, we have 12 boxers in the competition, which is great. So all the best to them. I'm sure with so many in there. I'm not sure what the mix is between the males and females, but regardless, again, all the best to all those competing. So with that in mind, I thought that today I would discuss my experience at the Olympic Games. Now I have sort of covered this in the past as far as, whether it's on Talking Boxing or some podcasts I've been on, but I just thought today I would just give you just a quick sort of insight into what my experience at the Olympic Games was like. So one thing I can tell you though, there was no displays of what we saw in the opening ceremony yesterday. I was fortunate enough to be at the Olympics where Muhammad Ali lit the torch, and you can imagine how much that meant to me and my teammates. Now, speaking of teammates, I was very fortunate to be on the same team as the likes of Robbie Peden, who was our team captain. He, of course, went on to win the IBF 130-pound championship. Justin Crawford, just probably one of the best amateurs we've ever had from Tassie. Very, very experienced. I think he went to a couple of Olympics, a couple of Commonwealth Games, I think. Well, I'll take that back. He was supposed to go to a second Commonwealth Games with me in '98 and was unfortunately taken off the team at the last minute, but that's another story. Also, Hussein Hussein, who ended up fighting some memorable fights with Jorge Arce in Vegas for the World Championship. And look, James Swan from Northern Territory, great little fighter. One of my really close mates. I used to room with Swanee a fair bit and haven't seen him for a long time, so I hope he's doing well. So it's a little bit cold this morning, I don't know if everybody knows, but also Lee Troush from New South Wales. He was the 63.5, so 140-pound representative. Also Richie Rolls, a bit of a nemesis that turned into a friend. I fought him at the Nationals in '93 and he put me on my ass. Just a great puncher. Just so good technique and balance and obviously power. When he hit me, I did about 3 somersaults. So yeah, and later on became really good friends with Richie. We sparred a lot of rounds after that because in the Olympics or the teams, you always spar the one above you and below. I was 147, so he was 154, and I would spar the 140 as well. So Rick Tampiri, The Rock, was the light heavyweight. I think I've got everyone there. There was 8 of us anyway. Apologies if I've missed anyone. But it was an interesting thing. Obviously, it was an honour to be selected. Was a little bit of controversy about my selection. I won't go into that now, but The bottom line is I'd fully qualified, won the Olympic qualifiers, Australian titles. I was ranked in the top 12 or 15 or whatever in the world. So I'd qualified, but there's a little bit of argy-bargy, some politics involved. But anyway, I got there. Our training camp was in, actually I'll backtrack a little bit. I still remember going down to Melbourne, to a factory outlet down there and getting measured up for my uniforms, this was the first taste of the Olympics, to get down there and have all the other athletes there. I remember getting fitted with Andrew Gaze, the basketballer. That was great to meet him, and you know, he'd obviously, I think he went to 4 or 5 Olympics from memory, so that was great. I remember all the media in the lead up to it. Suddenly you've got every man and his dog, national and local and whatever else, wanting you know, photo shoots, interviews. It was quite overwhelming. I was really lucky. I didn't have to work. I had all Olympians. Not quite sure what the elite guys got, all the swimmers and all that sort of stuff. They had probably so much sponsorship, but we got looked after really, really well. And remember, this is 1996, and I was getting $2,000 a month for, I think it was 3 months in the lead up to it, so $500 a week back in 1996 to really not do anything. That's probably equivalent to about $1,000 these days, so, or at least $750, whatever. So it was great to be able to be paid to train. The one thing that was probably missing though back then was the platform we have now as far as the national teams and the funding and training and all that sort of stuff. There was no AIS then. That came in later in '96 when Bodo Andreas came in. Our coach for this was the legendary Bo Gehring. I love Bo. He's unfortunately passed away now, but he was the national coach. Great old guy he was from, and I knew him well he was a Victorian coach, so that was great to have him along, and we had a really, really good relationship. But as I said, the platform we have these days and the structure and system and all that wasn't there back then. Pretty much everyone trained at the home gyms. They met for maybe a brief training camp, if at all. I mean, my first major tournament was the World Championships in '93 in Finland. I literally met Robbie Peden and Justin Crawford on the plane, and the coach on the plane over to Finland. I'd never met any of them. Sorry, I take that back. I'd met Crawford before, but I'd never met our coach, Charlie Smith, never met Robbie Peden. And there we were just meeting on the plane. That was our training camp. So we ended up going up to Cairns in Queensland. And let's just say it wasn't a disaster because we had each other, but there was no sparring partners. We had to spar amongst ourselves and some of the locals. These days they go over there and they do camps in Europe or America, whatever it might be, train with other countries. They might train with 3 or 4 other countries and get great sparring and everything else. I think we were lucky enough to have a high performance manager, if you will. The OAS sent him up there and he'd do some tests, he'd take some blood and whatever else it was, our pulse every day, whatever it might be. But yeah, it was really neither here nor there. But that's what we had. Literally, I mean, the facilities were great. We stayed at a really great hotel. We had great food, but the facilities was just a local gym, and as I said, we just had each other to spar with, and some of the locals. That was our training camp. We had one leading tournament, which was the Liverpool Cup. So we went to England, and that was our preparation. So we got to Atlanta about a week before the event, and it was just great. You know, for someone like me who dreamed of this my whole life, not just me, of course, everyone there was the same, but I just took it all in, and the village itself was massive. To walk around the Australian village and see you know, Karen Perkins and Kathy Freeman and Daniel Kowalski and Susie O'Neill, all these great athletes around just in the Australian part, and we were great. We had a massive team, so we had our own building, and I remember the first night we were there, they put on a barbecue, and we of course couldn't eat, but yeah, they put on a big barbecue, and I don't know how they were starting to read out letters from people, well, you know, people that were fans or whatever they might be, to athletes, and I don't know how, but I was called up to the front and it was by, I can't remember, it was Laurie Lawrence, the legendary swim coach. And he called me up the front, and some little kid had written a letter, and I can't remember who it was or what it even said, but in front of all the Australian team, there was probably about 4 or 5 of us got called up, and then for some reason it was a letter to me that was read out. And again, I can't remember what it said or who it was from, but it was really overwhelming to get called up in front of the whole Australian team and have Laurie Lawrence read this letter. And I'll get to Laurie Lawrence again in a sec, because he played another part in my Olympics experience. But just walking around with the uniforms, and I remember going into the eating hall. It was just massive and had every single thing you could imagine. There was McDonald's there was, because they were the major sponsor. I think there were 6 or 7 in the village, totally free. Everything was totally free. All the vending machines were free. You could just push the button and out would come a Powerade or a Coke or whatever it might be. Everything was 100% free. And it was just amazing, again, just to walk around the village, just see everyone go into the TV room. And of course there's no internet back then, so they had all the newspapers from around the world, and especially Australia. They had it on Australian TV, and you could see what was going on. You get free tickets to any other event. They laid them out every day, or you could request them, whatever. But yeah, it was quite overwhelming. And in the village, I had movie theatres and restaurants, bars, you name it, had everything. It was just crazy. And that was probably my first thoughts about getting there to Atlanta. And then we had to compete, and I must admit, I was probably one of the athletes that they talk about that need two Olympics, one to experience, one to compete, because I must admit I got caught up a little bit in all the razzmatazz and all the attention that we were getting, and probably just forgot a little bit about what we were there to do. And I probably wasn't as focused. Physically I was right. I was ready to go. I really was. Even though our training camp hadn't been ideal, we're all still very experienced fighters, and we just did what we had to do. So we're all okay. The opening ceremony, I was up in the air about actually wanting to go, because it was the night before my fight. Oh, by the way, they did the draw, and I drew a guy from Kazakhstan, who I'll get to in a sec. But the opening ceremony, yeah, we had to weigh in the next day. So it was, and I think pretty sure we might have had to compete later that night as well. But anyway, I did. Yeah, I think I did. I had to weigh in the next morning, and then ultimately I ended up fighting the next day. So we went to the opening ceremony. I got to say, it was absolutely unbelievable. We're in a little stadium beside the main stadium. Before we went in, of course, it was just packed because all the nations were there, and Australia were one of the first. I remember walking out, and it was a bit of a rush. They come running in and said, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we all had to run, and we got out into the arena and walking around and seeing 80, 85, 90,000, whatever the hell it was. It was unbelievable. It was like you're walking on air. Everyone, I remember seeing big sections of Aussies and the flags and cheering, and everyone was taking photos, and we were all just floating on air. It was just great. And then I remember having to sit in the middle of the oval after our lap, and that was tough. It was 3 or 4 hours just sitting in the middle. It was about 40 degrees. Muhammad Ali came out. How good was that? That was just unbelievable. The crowd just went nuts when he came out. I think I remember Evander Holyfield might have been there as well. That was his hometown, of course, Atlanta. But when Muhammad Ali came out, everyone just went crazy. So that was awesome. But yeah, it was pretty hard after that, sitting there in 40-degree heat, hungry, thirsty, tired. But I don't regret it. I had to do it. I could not go to Olympic Games and not go to the opening ceremony. So the next day we all weighed in, made weight, no problems. Excuse me, there with my runny nose. And as I said, I drew the fighter from Kazakhstan. Now, I knew nothing about Kazakhstan, absolutely nothing. It was just after the split of the Soviet Union. I remember I fought someone from Belarus once. I didn't know where that was either. That of course was another Russian country. So it was a little bit raw back then. No one sort of knew what was going on, and I thought, well, Kazakhstan, who the hell are they? They can't be that good. So I was actually quite happy with my selection. Little did I know though that the Kazakhs could fight, and I would learn that the hard way. I've got my little dog here. Yeah, come on, buddy. So where was I? Sorry, I'm just with my dog, just trying to stop him from doing his business in someone's front yard. So I drew the Kazakhstan. I can't remember his name. Was it Nurzan Smirnov or something like that anyway, but ended up being a 3-time junior world champion. And I think I've told the story before as well. I almost drew Felix Trinidad. He came out after me. So I was drawn, and then, it was Fernando Vargas. Yeah, Fernando Vargas was drawn after me. So we almost fought each other. So it was quite bizarre in hindsight. But anyway, probably the situation of the fight itself, of what could go wrong, did go wrong. I'll just get my dog here. He's decided to become a statue. These are the things you're going to have to put up with when we're out walking. We're not in the studio, it doesn't all go according to plan. Come on, buddy. So yeah, on the day of the fight, I remember first of all, it was hard because I was the least experienced on the team, but I was the first one in there. First day, first session, and I was in there. I would have loved to have had an opportunity to maybe watch a couple of events, or a couple of sessions, maybe watch a couple of, maybe there's a dog, one of the other experienced guys maybe fight first, but didn't work out that way. It is what it is. And I got there, and the first thing that happened was that I had the wrong boots, wrong sizes. I don't know how it happened. My left boot was one size and the right boot was about 2 sizes bigger. I don't know how it happened, but it just felt and looked ridiculous. So I had to I think it might have been Croft actually, had to hightail it back to the village and get me my boots. I'm pretty sure I might have even had the wrong colour outfit. I don't know what it was, but it was not a big thing, but it was enough just to unsettle me just a little bit. And I remember walking out behind this guy, and I thought, this guy is a middleweight. There's no way he's a welterweight, but he was big. He had a big back. So anyway, we walked out there, and look, the fight itself, I mean, I took it all in, it was great, but it was a disaster. It really was. I thought the first round, sort of 2 rounds were, actually 3 round fight. Mine in the first sort of round I thought was okay. It was quite even. He started to get on top in the second round, and I got the dreaded bell, the bell of death. Now what that is that if you fall 15 points behind, they ring the bell and they just wave the fight off. So that's what happened to me. It's still really hard to grasp, I suppose. It was tough, you know. It wasn't like I was getting battered or anything like that. I was just outclassed. He was a very good fighter, and nothing, by the way, would have changed the result. Whether it had been the opening ceremony or the boots or the outfit, nothing like that would have changed the result. So let me make that clear. I was inexperienced at the time, out of my depth at that stage, and I got a real wake up to what it's like at the real elite level. Even though I'd been to the World Championships and a few other international tournaments, nothing prepared me for that. And as I said, the bell went. It was a different type of bell, of course, to the regular bell, and I didn't really know what had happened, and the referee waved it off because I was 15 points behind, which I'm not sure whether that still happens. I think that doesn't, because they score it differently. This is back in the days with the red and blue buttons, and 1 point, 3 out of the 5 judges have to push it, whatever it is, but you understand what I'm getting at. So anyway, that was really tough, and the result I could probably sort of cope with. You know, I've always said it's not a big deal to lose if you lose to someone that's better, or whatever. But the hardest thing I remember was ringing home. I was so embarrassed, so upset, of course, and it was just devastating. And I know the common thing back home was, we're still proud of you, you did it. That's not much consolation for an elite athlete of any variation, whatever sport you're in. When you put so much into it, we've all got egos, we're all used to winning, we're all used to the adulation, we're all used to the pats on the back. and to be pretty much embarrassed on national TV. You know, all my friends and family and all that had been watching back home, and it was tough. I was just lost for words. I couldn't speak. I remember talking to my mum, and I had to hang up. I couldn't speak. I was that upset. And it was hard to sort of later on come back home and face everyone. But I know that no one really gave a shit. Everyone was still happy that I made it, but it was hard to take. Yeah, I was okay physically. There was no lasting effects there, but it was more emotionally, mentally, whatever you might want to call it. But I remember the next day, and I'll end this pretty soon because I've been going on for a while. But I remember the next day, the next morning. I'm pretty sure someone else had been, I can't remember who it was eliminated the same day. And I remember it was about 7 o'clock in the morning and there was bang, 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 bang on my door. And I'm thinking, all right, some bloody dickhead's been out partying all night and got the wrong room, whatever it might be. And I opened the door and it was Laurie Lawrence, the famous swim coach. And he said, "Lyndon." I said, yeah, it's me. He said, "Right, you got beat yesterday, didn't you?" I said, yeah. He said, "Right, get dressed, you're coming with me." And I was like, oh, wow, holy shit. And he was with Debbie Flintoff-King. If you remember her, she won the gold medal in track and field. And he said, "Come on, not going to feel sorry for yourself, let's go." And I actually spent the day with Laurie Lawrence and Debbie Flintoff-King. We went around to a few different events, a few different training sessions. And I won't say it was a whole day, it might have been 3 or 4 hours, but he was great. And to think that how many hundreds of athletes that were there, I'm not sure whether he did it to every single athlete that bombed out like I did, but it meant a lot for him to come and get me. I was just one of those lowly boxers that no one really cared about. It was all about the swimmers and the track and field and all that there. But he knocked on my door and got us out and stopped us from feeling sorry for ourselves and just sort of got us up and about. And then as the boxers sort of got eliminated one by one, we had a great time. I remember, I'll just get my dog here. I remember Justin Crawford and I doing a McDonald's crawl around the stadium, the village. We went to every single McDonald's there and had meals. And yeah, that was some of the memories. We obviously partied. We hung out. It was great. But it was not the greatest time. And people say, look, it should have been the highlight. Well, it was the highlight, but it was also the low light for me. But I will say it made me a lot better fighter. My mentality totally changed. And sometimes you've got to experience these types of things to develop as a human, as an athlete. And it definitely hardened me up. I can say that. But it was good after that. Just quickly, the Olympic Committee were great. They actually paid for myself, Robbie and Rick, I think it was, to fly up to Canada. So I was there for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks up in Canada. And then I flew back to Australia. My parents lived on the Gold Coast, so I went up there for 3 or 4 weeks. They paid for all that as well. And after that, as I said, it made me a lot stronger, because unlike most of my teammates, or nearly all of my teammates actually, it really lit a fire. And I came back. I got back into training, and I went to the Nationals probably about 6 weeks after I got home, and won the Nationals in Melbourne. I was really on a mission for that. I had 3 fights in 3 days and won them all clearly. And then went to the Commonwealth Championships in South Africa in December, and I won the gold medal there as well. So it was really, as I said, a real great experience for me. I won't say it was a highlight of my career, because it was just a devastating performance, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever been, well, that's happened to on the big stage. And I won't say I froze or anything like that. I was just outclassed, and I'm not afraid to say that. So that was my Olympic experience. I know I've sort of gone on for a little bit long here. I think I've covered everything, but overall, obviously these days I'm super proud that I made it. I've still got all my gear here at home that I'm sure that we pass to my kids one day. And it's one thing that, regardless of the result, no one can ever take away. And the Commonwealth Games were 2 years later. Maybe I'll cover that in another video at another time. But That was my experience at the Olympic Games, and I'll always be proud to wear the green and gold, results aside. Some great memories with my teammates, and just being at the games itself, and yeah, it was an experience I'll never forget. So again, all the best to the athletes, well, not just boxers, but all the Aussie athletes that are competing over the next 2 weeks. And I'll be definitely watching the boxing. Hopefully we can get that elusive gold medal. And for today, that is it for Walking Boxing. I'll catch you tomorrow.